Hello and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be pretty quick. I've been wanting to make this, but I also wanted to give myself a chance to actually use it and see if it functioned how I planned for it to. So I actually got this idea from a guy named Darren Explorers on Instagram, but it looks like there's a couple other people who have done similar things. For me, with a diesel heater, and my SUV, I didn't feel like I wanted to keep the loose diesel inside of my vehicle. These things have a tendency to leak sometimes, or if it falls over, or really just fumes in general. So I wanted to have it mounted to the outside. Now, in the past on other trips, I've been able to put it up on my roof rack in a horizontal position, which has been just fine. However, in instances where my roof rack is fully occupied, like with a rooftop tent, or if I've just got a bunch of random junk on top, then I no longer have a place where I can put it. So on a recent trip I went out with some friends, I had a cargo rack going off of my trailer hitch, and I mounted it vertically in the cargo rack along with a tote, and that has worked fine as well. But in a lot of trips I don't want to bring that cargo rack, and so this was kind of a cool idea that I wanted to try out, and honestly I really like how it worked. So it's pretty straightforward. I'll kind of give you the rundown of what I did and how it works for me with a rooftop tent or just with car camping inside of the vehicle. This is an Apache 4800 kind of Pelican case from Harbor Freight. It's relatively cheap, and you can use like a coupon or something to get it on discount. I'll open it up here. So inside you can see I kind of have the hot combustion exhaust pipe just mounted there with some zip ties, and then kind of not very nicely I have everything jammed in there. I should probably figure out a way to do that cleaner. So if I remove all this stuff, you've got the muffler for the exhaust pipe. This is the combustion intake, which I have on a hose clamp. All of my cabling kind of just sits right in here. And then I have a through port. Now this through port is just for the controller wiring. It can run through this hole. The power wiring, I actually have one of these SAE plugs and then a bulkhead on the top, or a plug on the top, and then this just plugs right in. Now, if you watch some of my videos, you'll see I had a blue cap. That was just 3D printed by a buddy, but it's not exactly the right size. So I need to get a better cap just to kind of help keep moisture and stuff from coming in here. On the other side, over here, I just have a like a little vent thing just to let some cold air in. This is the air intake for the hot air that'll get blown into the tent, so it's not the combustion intake. The combustion intake attaches to the bottom right here, and the combustion exhaust right here. And with the stiffness of the exhaust pipe, I can kind of bend it out away from the vehicle, and there hasn't been any problems with heat or anything like that. All right, so first thing I wanted to talk about is the feet. There are two suction cups that are used to kind of adhere it to the glass. If you look at the angle of this, it's almost vertical. So I did some math based on the weight, approximate weight of this entire assembly, and how much force would be applied to the glass. And it's equivalent to just like barely pushing on the glass. So really there's not a whole lot of force being put into the glass. So I have I'm not worried at all about the glass breaking. I took some scrap metal and I made these brackets. They just kind of come up and follow the curve of the vehicle, and then they attach to my roof rack here. I wanted knobs, and I wanted it to be able to be removed with a tent on top, so not having access to the back of the rack. To do that, I'll get up here. I just took some bolts, ran it through, put a kind of a nut on one side to tighten it on, so these just stay on the vehicle, and then this slides on over the bolt, and then the knob goes on over the top, as you saw in the beginning of the video. Super quick install, takes like no time at all. And then while I'm up here, I'll go ahead and show you. I wanted to be able to fuel up the diesel heater without taking or opening the case, so I just cut a hole with a hole saw ran the cap of the diesel tank up through that. Probably a good idea to seal this somehow, but so far it hasn't been much of a problem. So a keen eye will see that there's a couple other bulkhead fittings around, maybe some random holes, stuff like that. I've gone through multiple iterations of how to package this diesel heater into one of these cases, and to do that I've kind of butchered this case. So this is we'll call it version 1.0, and at some point it might be a good idea for me to remake the entire thing. Now if you're worried about the diesel tank dripping down onto the heater, so far that hasn't been a problem at all. It's pretty well sealed and my fittings are pretty well done. And actually, if you buy one of these Chinese diesel heaters off of Amazon in a configuration where it comes in a pre-made case, the fuel tank is on top of the diesel heater almost exactly like this. I have mine supported by foam, but the OEM ones, or the ones that you buy, they come with like metal bracketry. But regardless, you could always have that problem where diesel would leak down onto the heater. One thing I had to do is the cap of my diesel tank that I bought. It's pretty crappy and it likes to leak because it just has an open hole in it. So I plugged that hole with a bolt, but when you run the diesel heater, it'll take liquid out of, or fuel out of the tank and create a vacuum. So to offset that, whenever I'm running the diesel heater, I installed this breather valve and I just open this cap and it can let air in, and I just leave it open while I'm running, and then, you know, when I'm getting ready to leave the next day, I just close it up. No big deal. Right here you can see one of the bolts that holds the bracket to the back of the case. There are other bolts that hold the suction cups and everything to it. There's plenty of space and there hasn't been any problem with chafing or anything like that. Pretty happy with it. So there you go. That's the quick rundown on my diesel heater setup. I'm pretty happy with it so far, and it could definitely be adapted to a lot of different vehicle types. You know, whether you have a truck and you want to mount it to the outside, or a car, or whatever it is, it can be done. And that was one of the reasons why I bought my diesel heater in piece parts as opposed to in a unit. However, if you have one in a unit, very easy to break them apart and kind of tear it apart and do a DIY type of thing. So these things are super user friendly. There's a lot of videos out there on different ways to do what I've done. So hopefully this provided you a little bit of inspiration and didn't turn you off by all the kind of craziness. Hopefully I included some videos and pictures of the setup in use when out camping, and it has worked phenomenally. Having it mounted up high as opposed to on the ground keeps the exhaust and intake out of the snow and or like wet mud, but also provides a shorter heat duct distance from the hot air exhaust into the tent or in through the window. If you camp in really cold climates, oftentimes you'll find that there's significant heat loss from the ground all the way to your tent, or even from the ground kind of snaking along the ground to like a ground tent I've experienced. So all right, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.